Let's face it, life is not perfect. Business is not perfect. The road to your success is not going to be perfect either. And you can't wait till every single thing is lined up, ready to go.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey friends, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast, and yours truly, your host, Bryce Henson, coming at you today with a solo episode. And we're getting a lot of feedback from our audience as of late about some entrepreneur myths. And there's just a lot of myths out there, misinformation, if you will, which I know has been a tagline of the last few years for reasons outside of this particular podcast. But I think it's actually really good to do a deep dive, at least on three big myths that I hear about entrepreneurship. And really we can squash those, give you some practical examples from my life, some big ahas in the process, and then really guide you on the way to taking back control of your income through making a big impact through the business of fitness business ownership. So the first myth, that I want to squash right now, that many times entrepreneurs have in their back of their mind is everything needs to be perfect to start your journey. And my friends, this could not be further from the truth, because let's face it, life is not perfect. Business is not perfect. The road to your success is not going to be perfect either. And you can't wait till every single thing is lined up, ready to go. The analogy would be you would only get in your car to drive to work or the grocery store or wherever the case may be if every single light was already green. That's just not going to happen. That's not reality. So this all said, I want to be able to provide you a little story in my youth, and actually before my business entrepreneurship story, but it really resonated and it really showed me that everything does not have to be perfect. In fact, you need to take the first step. Stuff's going to happen. Bad stuff's going to happen. Challenge is going to happen. But it basically, if you take a stoic framework, a stoic mentality about this, and then you adjust, you're always going to be able to win. And for me, the story goes back to when I was an intern straight out of college. So I put myself through school. I graduated in the December of 2004. And for those of you who've been following the show, you know I'm from the Midwest, even though I've lived in Southern California for the better part of 20 years here. But in 2004, the summer before I was graduating, I got an internship in Los Angeles. And really at that period of time, I had work experience, I had life experience, I had travel experience, ended up going a study abroad program in Asia, went to Tokyo, Japan, Hong Kong, and then Singapore. Absolutely life-changing. But I didn't really have any solid internship experience as it related to, my career and my future business endeavors. And through a long kind of windy road in terms of college, I wanted to be a pharmacologist. Not because I like science or pharmacology, or I really wanted to be a pharmacist. I just had a family friend who was very successful, was a or worked himself up as a pharmacist, but ultimately a general manager at a major pharmacy chain here in North America that you're probably familiar with. So I thought, wow, that's really exciting. But as it turns out, after a semester of biology and chemistry, while I passed, I will note that I did pass, I realized very quickly that was not going to be the endeavor for me. So through a windy road, I ended up taking classes in both marketing and advertising. And I found a niche there. So I ended up, getting an internship in Los Angeles, California, through a program called Dream Careers. And it was an awesome program. Really, it was kind of like a summer camp for college kids. And actually what it really did is launch my career out in Southern California. And when you think about it, summer camp, usually, kids go to learn, sports or basketball or football or baseball. Sometimes you have technology camps these days. This was a career development program. So the company based itself in major world cities like Los Angeles, like New York, like Hong Kong, Barcelona, and London, to name a few. And really what you did is the student actually invested in the program. And as a part of all the deliverables, they got an internship placement, course credit, housing for the summer, food, meals, and transportation. That way, a kid from the Midwest who had no, connections or, I guess, influence out in Southern California could basically link themselves with this program called Dream Careers, get an internship in my marketing advertising field, and then also ultimately, be involved from a community perspective, having housing and logistics and transportation provided with the program. So it was a great, awesome, life-changing program, which really taught me a lot about, marketing and advertising. And actually the internship, the company I was placed at was a company called Chiat Day. Awesome company in the advertising space. In fact, the creative director of Chiat Day, at least at one point, was the person who kind of thought up the Energizer Bunny, which is a world-class famous marketing and advertisement. And in 2004, in that summer, the agency was winning awards. The iPod commercials had just came out. They were kind of those trendy color, commercials. I worked in the Pedigree dog food account, maybe not the sexiest account, but ultimately just a lot of cool stuff was happening that summer. And I learned a ton. But really the lesson in terms of not having everything to be perfect or needing everything to be perfect in order to start your journey really came from my transportation situation. So in all the other cities that Dream Careers operated in, as it turns out, they had subway systems like New York or Hong Kong, London, called the Tube. So logistically, it was way easier for the students and the program operationally to be able just to get the kids a subway card or a YouTube card or a Metro card, and then off they can go on a weekly basis to and from work during the period of the 2-month summer. But in Los Angeles, California, while we do have some public transportation, it's not necessarily the best. So really, for the first few summers, the company basically hired and listed vans, and kind of like when you went to school, you basically get bunched up with a bunch of kids that had their work experience close to yours, and like in a shuttle form, you'd have a van driver and then just drop you off just like you were as a kid going on a bus drop. This all said, I'm excited to arrive in Los Angeles. I have an awesome internship, which I learned a ton throughout the course of the summer. But what I realized is in Southern California, traffic is really, really bad, but the positioning within my internship was exceptionally bad. So I stayed at the campus of UCLA, which is in Westwood. And if you're familiar with Southern California, awesome. If you're not, no problem either. It's about 15 miles north on the freeway, the 405 from LAX. And LAX was very close to where my internship resided, the office where my company resided for that summer. And it's only 15 miles, basically north to south, but the 405 is known to be one of the worst pieces of traffic, congestion-wise, probably in the world, for sure in the States. And the 405 was also famously, I guess, made famous by O.J. Simpson back in the 90s with his famous Bronco chase. Yes, that was the piece of 405 that I used to drive to and from for my internship. That all said, well, I'm excited to arrive. What I didn't realize is that my commute one way was going to be 2 hours, and not because of the overwhelming distance, because of the traffic. But what was even worse, or quote unquote worse at the moment, was all the other kids, their internship was on the way to my particular internship, but far closer to the campus of UCLA. So really the first hour was spent dropping all the other kids off at work, and then the last hour was just me solo riding with the driver to basically arrive at my destination, which is just north of LAX, again, only about 15 miles. But again, that additional hour, so I'm spending 2 hours in the van, just one way, 2 hours back, and then for 1 hour, it was with other kids, which is great, I could socialize, but then the other hour, it was just with a van driver. So while I was bummed, things, quote unquote, weren't working out for me, what I realized, however, fortuitous situation in the sense that was the first year the Los Angeles program came to be. And the van driver, at least for the first month, not the second month, was actually the founder of the company because he wanted to get the program off the ground and really had a big issue there. So really wanted to take it upon himself to make sure that the students in that particular route were taken care of. So while I was frustrated, what I realized is how cool is this? All the other kids basically get dropped off, which is the first hour, but then I have 1 hour by myself, with the founder of this company, who's an incredible entrepreneur. At the time, he was super successful, but even in the last 20 years, he's massed so much more success, which I didn't know at the time, but I had the vision. I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to maximize my time here and literally ask this guy every question I can possibly ask about business, about entrepreneurship, about, growing and scaling and marketing and sales and leadership. And as it turned out, it turned out to be an incredible experience where not only I interned at Chiat Day and learned a lot there at work, but I actually got 2 hours one way, 1 hour on the way there and 1 hour on the way back, unsolicited time, just one-on-one with the founder of the company, not for the whole summer, but for the first month of the summer. What I learned in the process was invaluable, just in terms of leadership and salesmanship and scale and how he was growing his business. And then also too, I didn't know this at the time, I was building a relationship with Eric. And really Eric was my first fitness, or not my first fitness mentor. He's my first mentor who really taught me about, being a visionary and launching companies, entrepreneurship, and most importantly, he taught me how to sell, because after that summer expired, I ended up coming back. He actually offered me a full-time role, and I worked with him for the better part of 10 years in his company, in his organization, learning how to sell, learning how to lead, which really laid the foundation for future growth. And I would not be here in front of you, this camera today, without that experience. So my call to action, my takeaway for you is everything doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, you might actually come up with challenges, a lot of challenges at that. That is true about every person in this world, we all face challenges, and especially if you're an entrepreneur. So the fact is from an entrepreneurial framework, you're going to face challenges. You're going to face adversity. That's just the name of the game. But can you take that adversity? You can take that challenge, reframe it, okay, like I did, and then use it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to actually gain a more valuable skill set, and then also build and develop an incredible relationship, which actually has served me for decades to come. And that's really a big learning lesson because, again, everything's not going to be perfect. All the lights are not going to be green in order for you to start your business journey. But really, it's the people who take action, okay, who learn from this, who go on a detour, but continue to take massive action. These are the people that really create the most income through impact, not only in Fit Body's organization, not only in the fitness business, but just basically in business in general, because life comes at you hard, adversity comes at you hard. You have to have that stoic mentality to realize that nothing's going to be perfect, or I should say, everything's not going to be perfect when you start, but you have to start in order to ultimately achieve success. Hey there, my name is Bryce Henson, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, and you might know me as the host of this podcast, but what you might not know is that I started my fitness business journey as a Fit Body location owner. And since 2012, I've been able to impact my community while creating financial freedom, both for myself and my family too. You see, by using Fit Body's proven business model, we give you all the support and guidance you need to be your own boss and build a business that aligns with your passion for fitness. And being we are the absolute best at launching and scaling our franchise partners gyms, we are now excited to announce our 100 member guarantee. Now you might be thinking, Bryce, what is that? Well, we are so confident that we'll launch your Fit Body Bootcamp location with well over 100 paying members from day one on your grand opening that if we don't, we'll run your marketing till we do. That's how confident we are in our ability to support you and guide you through this process. So if you're interested in creating more income through impact, click the link somewhere around this video to apply. Myth number 2, okay, is having a safe, secure job will last me forever. And my friends, that could not be further from the truth. The fact of the matter is, and what I learned in this particular environment, you would much rather basically rely on hundreds of people for your income than on one person or one entity. And really, this particular second myth that I'm going to bust, okay, about having a safe, secure job forever is really the back end story of the story that I just basically told you about my onset of joining or coming to California and starting my career for a company called Dream Careers, which was an incredible experience laid down by the foundation of Eric Lochtefeld is his name. Eric, if you're watching, I love you, man, and you're going to be on this show at some point, which is incredible. So that all said, while I showcase the story of me coming to Los Angeles, I ended up working for Eric for many years, and I learned for the first handful of years under his direct tutelage, I learned how to sell, I learned how to market, I learned how to lead. There was just an incredible amount of valuable experiences that I learned. And, while that was all to be true, I kind of had this sense that I was meant for something more. I was meant to chart my own path and really open a business and become an entrepreneur and really take back control of my own destiny. That was kind of in my thoughts for a period of time. But that said, I had such a great relationship and such a great company experience. I felt, I was safe and secure, but something happened one day, and it wasn't fun news, and actually was the detriment of the company, sadly, as I report this many years in advance. But Eric decided to sell the company to, at the time, the chief marketing officer. And the chief marketing officer is a good guy. He meant well, and he had some strong, learning or skill sets in terms of business. He has MBA, but he had a hard time building relationships with his team, creating strong company culture, and really making a company culture where people are excited from a leadership perspective to follow him and continue on the journey. I'll never forget, one day when Eric basically was setting up a conference call, and it was dense and it was very, very important that everyone had to be on, and he shared the vision. And ultimately, while it was super happy for him able to sell the company and move on, I was clearly sad for myself and the rest of teammates who basically grown up under his tutelage. And when I realized at that moment in time, things began to change. The company culture changed instantly, overnight. The company leadership changed instantly overnight. The company's success, not overnight, but it changed in a negative way. In fact, over a handful of years after that transition, unfortunately, the company is no longer in existence. And really what I learned, that this safe, secure job fallacy is actually a biggest fallacy, because again, going back to the point that I wanted to articulate, you would much, much, much rather depend on many people, hundreds of people, thousands of people for income in your local community through products and services, through fitness and fat loss and coaching and nutrition coaching, than relying on one person, one source of income, one entity, because at the end of the day, you don't know if the entity is going to change, if some bad decision is going to be made, or if the company gets sold, and the company culture, the company people, the company connections and relationships, and the company success will change. And that was a huge, big eye-opener for me that I really want to impart on you. And it changed my thought around business, entrepreneurship, and it really changed my mindset around being able to take back the pen, write my own story, and really chart my own success. And I've done that through business entrepreneurship, through Fit Body Bootcamp. And that's the value that we're able to offer, our franchise partners across the way, is that support that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. You can basically take back that pen, not be reliant on one entity, one person, one bad decision from one other person, and you can rely on a community of people that you're serving. And in addition, they're providing you the true security, okay, which is long-term reoccurring revenue. And I don't know about you, but that makes me sleep way better at night. So that is myth number 2. Having a safe, secure job is forever. My friends, it is not. And the last myth from an entrepreneur perspective is that you have to quit your day job to get started. Now, that is actually also a myth as well. I'm actually going to share my story as well. Before I do, there's a few disclaimers, though, that I want to make sure that I'm very clear at. For me, in my story, I had some flexibility. I had a lot of success in the company that I worked for underneath Eric for a long period of time. So my success allowed myself to have a flexible schedule, work from home schedule. So I had some advantages there. I also have an amazing wife who was able to support me now when I launched my first business endeavor. Now, she was not front and center. We had just lived in Brazil for a couple of years. That's where she's from. So she's by nature shy and introverted, although she's come at herself in a major way in the last decade. But I had her not in the front end support, but she was there on the back end support, and it would have been way more challenging without that. I dedicated myself for the first 6 months for 14-hour days of work, with the exception of Sunday. I worked a half a day, and now I still probably work 12 to 14 hours a day, but I do that out of want, not necessarily out of need. So I was willing to put in the work, knowing that I wanted to hedge my bet. I wanted to make sure that I was taking a calculated risk, but I was willing to put the work to overcome some of those challenges, and that needs to be the same for you. The disclaimer is, while short term, okay, you can keep your day job and start a side hustle, start a side business to gain momentum and traction, but long term, if you're going to really make it to the fullest extent, if you're going to create a business that drives income and through impact, and really build a strong entrepreneurial presence and really a fitness empire with a location or locations with bustling clients and really strong revenues, there will be a day where you do need to set aside that kind of full-time gig that you're currently doing and actually go all in. But it doesn't have to be from day one, but it needs to be something you need to work through and work to. In my case, it took 18 months to do that before I could actually take the full leap of faith, aside from the initial leap of faith to get the business off the ground. So that all said, the fallacy is you have to quit your day job immediately to begin working on your passion-based business, fitness business, and that's not the truth. So I'm going to be able to tell you a story. And really, this kind of all flows in together, because the company I worked for, Dream Careers, was an incredible launch to Southern California. It taught me how to lead. It taught me how to sell. It taught me how to push my comfort zones. I was able to travel the world. I had so much value from this, but I had this desire, this burning desire ever since a young age to basically plot my own course, take back that pen and really be an entrepreneur and take my income, in my own hands. And so this was in the back of my mind for a long time. And thankfully I was able to learn how to sell. But ultimately when that happened, when the transition happened where Eric, my first mentor, ended up selling the company, I knew that things were changing very quickly. And it didn't actually take too long. Within probably 30 days, it was very, very clear that the culture was changing. So at that point, it put a little fire in my butt to realize hey, I got to actually start this now. Otherwise the situation could actually get worse. I decided to basically take a leap of faith after, months of extensively researching Fit Body Bootcamp. I expressed an interest and, talking to other franchise partners at the time. Back in 2012, there wasn't that many. The brand was in infancy. But ultimately I realized this is what I want to do in order to take myself to the next level. I'm meant for this. And deep down, while I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm putting my life saving to this little endeavor, I have to do this for me, and I have to do this for the community that I can serve. And at that time, I didn't have a ton of money, but I put my life saving to get the business off the ground in terms of franchise buy-in, reserve my territory, the lease, the build out, the equipment, etc. But I didn't have any other resources aside from that, because I literally put everything in. So that side job, if you will, or my job, if you will, was a necessity. And really what I did for a period of 18 months is I kept that job while I was able to build the business, reinvest every dollar back in the business until it got to a point where it actually could lift off, and then I could put full focus. And while that first, 18 months was a strong growth, after the 18 months, I really started to hockey stick because I put in more attention and focus. But those first days, those first 18 months were rough, and specifically hyper-focused. Those first 6 months were absolutely brutal. I used to wake up at 4 o'clock every day. I'd get to the gym, basically, coach sessions from about 5 o'clock our first session to about 9 in the morning. I had an hour break in there where I'd get my own workout and have breakfast and drink my protein shake. So I was really busy then. But at 9 o'clock, when session finished and I said farewell to our clients, then I had from 9 till 5 o'clock during the day where I would basically execute my quote unquote full-time sales job, all while basically fitting different pockets in the day, do some marketing and marketing work specifically for my Fit Body Bootcamp locations to continue to increase traction and drive more leads to our business. And then in the evenings from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I would train set bootcamp sessions for another couple hours. And then at 7 o'clock, I would bode my clients farewell. I would go home, I'd eat dinner. I actually had a work call for my quote unquote 9 to 5 job from 7:30 to 8 o'clock every day. And then by 8:30, 9 o'clock, I was put my head down on the pillow. I was exhausted from the day, and then wake up at 4 o'clock and do it all over again. And thankfully, again, my wife was there for support on the back end. And within the first 6 months, she started training a couple sessions 2 days a week. So it helped with that. But all this to say, I decided to take a big risk, a calculated risk at that. But I did so in a way that I knew long term, if I'm really going to make sure this business skyrockets, I need to be in a position where I go all in. I put all my focus. And if you look at the business, if you look in the financials, the metrics, the culture, the amount of clients, after that 18-month period, it really started to ramp up. But I took that first 18 months because I wasn't fully funded, and I needed a little bit of bandwidth and breathing room financially. It also gave me the opportunity to make some mistakes with marketing, with sales, with just business in general, because you're going to make mistakes in the process, which is okay. But it also allowed me to have that financial cushion where I could reinvest every single dollar back in the business for those first 18 months before I realized, okay, I have created a really, really strong foundation in the business, but if I want to take it to the next level, if I want to grow, end up scaling to 5 locations within the first 5 years after I've made that leap of faith, I need to actually go all in. So I think that's really the big message. That's my story. And again, I want to kind of circle back to the myth that you have to quit your day job to begin with. You don't. You can actually take a calculated approach just like I did, but also know with the caveats, you have to have some flexibility with your day job. Hopefully you have some support. But ultimately, you got to put in the work. You cannot be allergic to the work. Until this day, I work 14-hour days, but I do that off a desire, not necessarily necessity. In the first beginning days of opening your first fitness business, you're probably going to have to do it out of necessity, but that's okay. It makes for an incredible story. And when you showcase that story to your team, your clients, they actually respect you way more for it. And then long-term, again, while you don't actually have to quit your day job to begin, long-term, if you're serious about your success, if you're serious about your growth, and you have big visions, big aspirations, big dreams, you are eventually going to have to take that second leap of faith. The first leap of faith is starting the business. The second leap of faith is basically moving away from your quote unquote safe, secure job, which we just talked about in bullet point 2 is a fallacy to begin with, to really take your business, your career, your life, and your family's goals to the next level. So my friends, those are the three entrepreneur myths that I look to shatter today. Number 1, everything has to be perfect to start your business journey. That is so BS. That is not true. It will never be perfect. You have to start though in order for you to find success. Number 2, a safe, secure job is forever. My friends, maybe it feels like in this moment, but at the end of the day, things change. Your boss could change, the company could sell, and it's not so safe after all. From my own experience, hopefully that impacted you. The third myth is that you have to quit your day job to begin. We just basically put a bow on that. So those are the 3 myths that hopefully I squashed. That's my story, and really I'm here to inspire you so that way you can grow your income through impact and hopefully launch a fitness business, and even better so, do it underneath the Fit Body Bootcamp Bootcamp umbrella name. So that is all I have for you today. If you got value from this, if you know another business owner, an entrepreneur, maybe a wife or a spouse or someone within your influence that also has that entrepreneur niche, I would highly encourage you to share this video. Also, if you got value, give it a like, give it a subscribe on YouTube, and write us an awesome comment in the comments box. We'd love to hear from you. So that's all, my friends. We will see you in the next episode.